It's 10 a.m. Thursday, June 3rd here in Seoul. You're tuned into our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Yoon Jung-min filling in for Kim Mo-kyun. Let's start with the headlines. South Korea added 681 new COVID-19 cases today. Meanwhile, vaccinations in the nation appear to be picking up speed, with the vaccine reservation rate increasing. And due to the impact of the pandemic, the International Labor Organization is warning that global employment may take some time to recover to pre-pandemic levels. The U.S. has once again signaled its willingness for dialogue with North Korea, citing the recent appointment of U.S. Special Envoy for North Korea, Sung Kim. South Korea added 681 new COVID-19 cases on Thursday, most of which were local transmissions. As for the vaccinations, over 381,000 more people received their first shots on Wednesday, bringing the total tally to more than 6.7 million. That means around 13% of the population have gotten their first doses. AstraZeneca vaccine reservations wrap up today. It is currently being given to the elderly, people with severe respiratory problems, as well as teachers. The reservation rate has reached over 76% so far. This month is being deemed by local officials as the most critical point in South Korea's inoculation campaign, as most older adults are likely to get at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. Our Lee Jae-yong reports.
The month of June will determine whether South Korea can inoculate the majority of the nation's older adults and ultimately result in 14 million people getting at least one COVID-19 vaccine dose by the end of the second quarter. The government's goal is to reach 80% participation rate among those 60 to 74 who are getting the AstraZeneca vaccine. With a single day remaining until the booking period ends, authorities on Wednesday called for any last-minute participation.
Reservations for those aged 60 to 74 run until Thursday. If you miss this reservation round, you will have to wait until October.
So far, more than 1.2 million people from the group have received their first shots. A total of some 9 million people are expected to have received theirs by June 19th. Also by that point, teachers at daycare center, kindergarten, and first and second grades in elementary school would have received their first doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. In the meantime, essential workers like police officers and soldiers aged below 30 will be inoculated with the Pfizer vaccine. They were excluded from the AstraZeneca vaccinations due to a link to rare blood clotting. Newly added to the second quarter inoculation campaign are military-related personnel over the age of 30. They'll be getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine provided by the U.S. government in a surprise gift. All 900,000 shots on offer have already been fully booked. Authorities say the leftover vaccines from the second quarter inoculation campaign will be offered to the over 60s. Lee Jae-yong, Arirang News.
More countries are now expanding their COVID-19 vaccination campaigns by approving the inoculation of younger age groups. This includes France and Israel, which will soon begin inoculating those 12 and older. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
With half of all French adults having received at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot, the country is looking to expand its campaign by offering vaccines to everyone between 12 and 18 starting June 15th. During a visit to southern France on Wednesday, French President Emmanuel Macron announced the plan, citing a recent spike in vaccine supplies. With France beginning to bounce back from a severe third wave, Macron has been looking to quickly expand vaccine coverage to slow the spread of variants that could lead to another resurgence. Israel, which has been one of the most aggressive countries when it comes to vaccinations, will also expand its age range. The nation's health minister on Wednesday announced it will begin vaccinating children aged 12 to 15 from next week. Children in that age range who are at risk of suffering severe symptoms from COVID-19 infections will be first in line, as well as those living with family members at risk of serious illness from COVID-19. The ministry added that families wanting to travel abroad will also be included in the first round. However, aside from those groups, anyone else who wants to vaccinate their adolescent children will be able to do so. It stressed that vaccinations will not be compulsory for adolescents, only advised, so parents can decide if they want their children to get the shots or not. In Japan, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has pledged an additional $800 million to the COVAX facility, aiming for a fair distribution of vaccines worldwide. The announcement came during an online vaccine summit Wednesday, co-hosted by Japan and the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, a group that promotes vaccinations in developing nations. Suga said more solidarity and commitment is needed to overcome the crisis, adding Japan will fully support the safe, fair, and effective distribution of vaccines to as many people around the world as it can. Japan's latest contribution brings its total contribution to $1 billion. 이승재, Arirang News.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused unprecedented damage to public health, employment, and people's livelihoods in general. Now, the International Labour Organization warns that global employment will not recover to pre-pandemic levels until at least 2023. Our Kim Hyo-sun reports.
The ILO is warning of a slow recovery in the global job market following the unparalleled disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In its report titled World Employment and Social Outlook Trend 2021, the Geneva-based organization estimates the aftermath of the pandemic, especially on employment growth, will continue until at least 2023. It did forecast the latter half of 2021 will look brighter, providing the pandemic doesn't become more problematic. Nevertheless, it forecasts next year's global unemployment rate at 5.7%, which is higher than pre-pandemic levels. However, it noted that this is an improvement from the 6.3% expected for this year. The report also estimates over 200 million people are forecast to remain unemployed in 2022, compared to the pre-pandemic count of 187 million in 2019. The ILO adds that an estimated 8.8% of total working hours were lost last year, which is equivalent to the hours worked in a year by some 250 million full-time workers. The report also underscored the danger of increased geographic and demographic inequality, rising poverty, and fewer decent jobs resulting from the crisis. It said pandemic-induced damages were more apparent among the vulnerable, informal workers, women, and migrant workers. The ILO pointed to uneven vaccine coverage and the resurgence of COVID-19 in some regions as reasons for the unequal and fragile recovery. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman said Washington was ready to hold talks with Pyeongyang, a remark made during a telephone briefing with reporters on Wednesday. Sherman stressed that the recent appointment of Sung Kim as special representative for North Korea was another signal that the U.S. was prepared to hold dialogue with the North, adding that she hopes Pyongyang would take up the offer. She also noted that the U.S. had made its policy known to the reclusive regime. Her comments remain unclear on whether she meant Pyongyang had been informed about the new approach through a third party or that the Biden administration had made direct contact with the North. More than a year of remote learning has taken its toll on South Korea's education system. Research conducted by the Education Ministry shows many students fell behind in Korean, math, and English last year. Our Kim Sung-min has the details.
Many students in South Korea whose classes were disrupted by the pandemic are falling behind in their learning. That's according to a report released by the Education Ministry on Wednesday, which surveyed around 3% of the total students in the second grade of high school and third grade of middle school last year. This comes as there were only around half the number of in-person class days as in a normal year.
In 2020, students who failed to meet basic academic standards in mathematics, English, and the Korean language increased, while those who were above average decreased compared to the previous year.
The report marked the first confirmation by the ministry that children's academic achievements were harmed by the pandemic. In the Korean language, the percentage of middle school seniors classed as average or above average dropped 7.5 percentage points on year. English saw a drop of 8.7 percentage points. and fewer high school sophomores managed to reach average or above average levels in the Korean language. Students who failed to meet even basic standards in English and Korean expanded in both groups, as did the percentage of high school sophomores who failed to reach the basic standard in math. The biggest increase was seen in high school sophomores who failed to reach basic standards of English, as this figure jumped 5 percentage points on year to 8.6%. The pandemic has also affected students' mental health, with fewer students in both groups saying they feel a high level of happiness. 김성민, Arirang News.
A luncheon meeting was held Wednesday between President Moon Jae-in and representatives of South Korea's top conglomerates. While the session was arranged mainly to discuss the results of the recent Seoul-Washington summit, a potential pardon for the jailed de facto chief of Samsung was also raised. Our senior Blue House correspondent Kim Min-ji reports.
South Korea's four major conglomerates have asked President Moon Jae-in to consider giving a pardon to the de facto leader of Samsung Group, Lee Jae-yong, who's behind bars for bribery and embezzlement. The request was made by the representatives of Samsung, Hyundai, SK, and LG, who attended a luncheon meeting on Wednesday at the Blue House. The top office said the business leaders asked the president to review a proposal made recently by 5 major business lobby groups, that is, to pardon Lee ahead of Liberation Day on August 15th. Traditionally, presidents have granted special pardons on the anniversary to promote national unity. The leaders apparently said that the Samsung chief needs to be present to make swift decisions regarding massive investment projects, while others stress that the next couple of years will be crucial given the uncertainties ahead.
President Moon listened to the request regarding a pardon for Lee Jae-yong and said he understands their difficulty.
Moon was also quoted as saying that the current economic situation is in fact different from before, and that he is aware that companies are being requested to take on bold roles. The president had previously said he will consider people's opinions and make a decision. The business leaders were at the Blue House mainly for discussions on the outcome of Moon's visit to the U.S. last month. The president credited them for the fruitful outcomes. The 4 groups announced investments in the U.S. worth over $39 billion, a move intended to help build supply chain resilience.
반도체, 배터리, 전기차 이런 이제 최첨단 기술, 최첨단 제품에서 서로 간의 부족함, 공급망을 서로 보완하는 관계로까지 이렇게 이제 더 포괄적으로 발전된 게 굉장히 뜻깊은 일이라고 생각이 되고요.
The leaders pledged continued efforts to build an active economic partnership between Seoul and Washington. Moon brushed off concerns that major investment in the U.S. could hinder job creation at home.
이제 우리 이제 대기업들이 앞장서서 나가게 되면 그 중소 중견 협력업체들도 동반해서 진출하게 되고 또 거기에 우리 이렇게 부품 소재, 장비 이런 게 또 크게 수출이 되기 때문에 그 오히려 우리 국내 일자리가 더 창출이 되고 더 많은 그 기회들이 생기는 것이거든요.
This was Moon's first meeting with representatives from the 4 groups at the Blue House since he took office in 2017. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
South Korea's biggest automakers, Hyundai Motor and its affiliate Kia Motors, have racked up record monthly sales in the U.S. for the 3rd straight month. Combined, they sold over 170,000 units in May, following more than 141,000 in April and March. Hyundai Motor delivered about 90,000 cars in May, up 56% on year. Its retail sales were up 54%. Hyundai Motor America attributed the high totals to strong consumer demand across its lineup. Kia's sales also rose 75% on year to about 80,000 units. The country's central bank will start testing the feasibility of a digital currency later this year. The BOK believes the switch might not happen right away, but this is the first step in building the foundation for it. Our Kim Jae-hee explains further.
With digitalization accelerating globally, most major central banks are exploring and experimenting with central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. This includes the Bank of Korea, which will kick off a 10-month simulation study of CBDCs in August to test ways of issuing, redeeming, and making payments with the digital won.
There's great need for central banks to issue CBDCs as a safe means of payment that is free of credit risks and liquidity risks.
The BOK's pilot platform requires partnerships with private companies. The central bank will issue the currency, and private financial services institutions and fintech and IT companies will be in charge of the currency's circulation. All this will be done in a virtual environment.
This is the first step in constructing an experimental environment for technological research into CBDCs. In Phase 1 this year, we'll conduct tests related to payments and deposits. Next year, in Phase 2, we'll test remittances between countries, offline payments, and digital asset purchases, such as the purchase of digital artwork and copyrights.
The BOK will also choose a private firm as a technology supplier through open bidding. Some companies have already shown interest, such as Naver, Kakao, and the IT arm of LG Corporation, LG CNS.
No one has experience yet in issuing CBDCs, so businesses are eager to be first ones to get it, even at their own expense. So this opportunity to do so with the government's budget is of great interest to them.
South Korea is not the only country exploring and experimenting with CBDCs. China's been testing out its digital yuan in various regions. And in the U.S., the Boston Federal Reserve and MIT are collaborating on the development and testing of a digital dollar. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
The U.S. is suspending any punitive tariffs on Britain, India, and 4 European countries, while it works to resolve a dispute over digital service taxes. U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai says the tariffs will be put on ice for 6 months as the U.S. looks for a multilateral solution. The suspension comes at the conclusion of a year-long probe into taxes, which Washington claimed discriminated against U.S. tech giants like Apple and Amazon. However, Tai stressed the U.S. has the option to impose tariffs on goods from countries that adopted the taxes. In January, the U.S. Trade Representative suspended 25% tariffs on $1.3 billion worth of French goods that were imposed during the dispute.
Welcome. It's time for The World Now, bringing you some of the most interesting news from around the globe. I'm Ji-young. It seems like there's no age limit when it comes to enjoying virtual reality. Researchers at Stanford University are working with 1,200 seniors in Florida for a study on whether virtual reality can improve their emotional well-being. After a trip to the International Space Station, one senior said he experienced a whole new world.
It just really is a whole new situation. Very stunning. I was pleased when they told me I was supposed to come over here today, because I've been very taken by this whole program.
Seniors can also take a virtual journey to Paris, Venice, Egypt, or other places around the globe. Researchers aim to figure out whether virtual reality can impact their mood, strengthen their relationships with others, and make them more technology-friendly. The long jump is not only a competition designed for humans. There is also an annual contest held in England for car jumping as well. In the southern county of West Sussex, drivers in protective gear attempted to fly over 9 cars. Each attempt was judged on 3 categories: jump elevation, distance, and the cheering of the crowd. The winner of this year's event was Ryan Wing, a security guard from Kent. He was awarded 50 British pounds, about $71 US, and a trophy. In the Jordanian capital, there's an artist who draws portraits for people for free. Every day, Ahmad Rimawi tours downtown Amman looking for someone to deliver a pleasant surprise to. He draws without their knowledge and then gives them their portraits as a gift.
I didn't know what he was working on, but when I saw the drawing that looks exactly like me, it made me very happy. I appreciate his skills. He is a really gifted person.
Rimawi started drawing portraits of people on the streets and public markets around 2 months ago. His aim is to bring smiles and spread positive vibes amid the pandemic at a time when people can easily encounter depression. The young artist said he plans to draw as many people as possible in Jordanian cities for one simple reason: to make everyone happy.
Good morning. Cloudy and wet weather is back in the forecast, and as we can see, it's been raining in Korea's southern parts of the country. And that rain clouds are spreading to the rest of the country. So the capital region will see rain from noon into tonight, so please keep an umbrella handy. And we are forecasting 5 to 40 millimeters nationwide. But Jeju and South Coast, the regions saw rain earlier in the day, will see the showers clearing as early as this afternoon. It was quite hot yesterday, with some regions seeing the highest temperatures of the season, but it's going to be far cooler today with highs 2 to 8 degrees lower than yesterday. So Seoul and Chuncheon will get up to 22 degrees. Daegu and Daejeon will be hitting 23 degrees Celsius this afternoon, along with good air quality nationwide. But sunny skies return tomorrow. However, temperatures, though, will remain slightly below the season norms through the weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for now. Thanks for watching. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Goodbye.